Hi, and welcome back to KSBCF's Virtual Getaway Week. My name's Nicole Rolfe, and I am the Administrative Director for the Kentucky School for the Blind Charitable Foundation. Tonight, we're celebrating Taco Tuesday, Kentucky style, where Chef Graham is going to be showing you how to cook up some hot brown tacos. Now, before we get into the cooking video, we just want to take a moment and share with you a bit about the KSBCF grant program and how it makes a difference in the lives of students in Kentucky who are blind and visually impaired. Thank you and enjoy.
We also receive individual applications from students across the state. And so those requests might be assistive technology, for example. They might need a dome magnifier. They might need an iPad so that they can magnify images in the classroom and or at home. They might need a CCTV, which is also a different type of magnifier. So it's a variety of requests we get. We also get unique requests, like, for example, an American Girl doll with a matching eye patch. There was a young lady who was hesitant to wear her eye patch out in public. And so we purchased her an American Girl doll that looks like her, and she also got an eye patch. So her eye patch matched that of the American Girl dolls, and she then would wear her eye patch. So it's a variety of grant requests that we receive from individual students, and we meet together and try to honor as many of those as we can.
Hi, my name is Mason Tilley. My goal and dream in life has always been to have a career in the computer industry, and today I'm going to explain exactly how KSBCF has helped me achieve it. You know, KSBCF is short for Kentucky School for the Blind Charitable Foundation, and let me tell you, that is what they are. They are so charitable. Ever since I was little, they've been helping me out. When I was in grade school a long time ago, I was competing at the Braille Challenge at the state level. The Braille Challenge is a competition for blind and visually impaired Braille readers in reading, writing, and comprehending Braille. So, I was competing, and I won at the state level. And that year, I actually qualified to go to the national competition out in Los Angeles, California. And guess who bought my plane ticket? KSBCF did. They didn't just stop there, though. In 7th grade, I was needing a Braille note taker, which is a small device which allows note-taking, book reading, and web surfing all in Braille. I wanted it so I could do school assignments quicker and more efficiently. Well, I asked KSBCF if they could help out, and you know what? They did. They stepped up and contributed half the money for that very expensive machine. I still have it today, and it's great. In my sophomore year of high school, my school district switched to online learning. I didn't really have a computer, though. So, I asked KSBCF if they wouldn't mind helping out once more, and they stepped up and bought me a MacBook Pro. I still have that thing now, and I use it every day. It was because of that computer that I started getting into programming and development, and I really began to get more and more interested in how they all worked.
Hey everybody, Chef Graham Thompson coming to you here on behalf of the Kentucky School for the Blind Charitable Foundation. They have kindly asked me to show you one of my personal favorite recipes, good for a Super Bowl party, a derby party, birthday party, or if you're just trying to impress your family and friends. If you have lived in Louisville for any amount of time, you've probably familiarized yourself with the hot brown at this point. It's one of our state's biggest claims to fame. And we are going to do a slightly different take on that. That's more of a past appetizer. And we're going to start with the turkey. And in lieu of a roasted sliced turkey breast, just for structural integrity of the dish that we're trying to make, we're going to deep fry it. And we're going to do that by taking our turkey and dredging it or battering it in a seasoned flour, a little bit of salt and pepper, some whipped eggs, and some sourdough breadcrumbs that we actually made from scratch a little bit earlier this evening. Following that, we're going to take some nice strips of crispy bacon and then make a Mornay sauce out of heated milk and melted butter and flour, which lends itself well to a thickening agent as well as flavor for the dish. We are going to take 2 cups of shredded Parmesan and 2 cups of grated Gruyere cheese as the base for our Mornay sauce. All will be nestled on top of a nice fluffy flour tortilla. And then we'll garnish with some sliced Campari tomatoes. And we were fortunate enough this year, we actually have some nice chives to top it all off with for some color and additional onion flavor from our garden out back. Now, everything you see here in front of you was actually purchased from our local Paul's Fruit Market. They are a sponsor of the Kentucky School for the Blind Charitable Foundation, and everything you see here was picked up and provided by the friendly employees. This is available year-round. I would say you have 3 tacos worth here in front of you. So keep that in mind as we're going forward, because I don't want you to think that I'm a magician and that I'm pulling too much out of my hat right here. But just for the sake of the demonstration that we're doing this evening, every portion that I will be doing for you is just a sample for your knowledge. 3 tacos, which for me personally is about 1 serving. So anything that we do here, if you're cooking for 9, 10, 12, 20 people, you'll want to multiply each ingredient accordingly. All right, let's get started. All right, my friends, first phase of our hot brown taco adventure together is going to be the turkey. Now, because we are doing this a little bit differently than what you would normally see in a traditional hot brown, and we're actually doing the cooking as a part of the method, you are going to want to take a nice boneless filet. It's totally up to you. Some people prefer dark meat, such as myself, so we're using a thigh for the sake of this recipe. Others prefer breasts, which is juicier white meat. So you use whatever you want. This is your recipe. It's your food, whatever makes you and your friends happy. We'll recommend, as you are prepping your turkey, because it does have to be cooked and it has the breading elements on the outside of it, I would recommend making tiny slivers as so, no more than 1/4 of an inch thick, because you don't want the batter to burn on the outside while the turkey's still cooking in the middle. So you want to be somewhere in that 1/4 inch magical range. So that way it only takes a minute, 2 minutes tops in the oil that you're going to fry it in. So we're just going to go ahead, take a few of our turkey fillets here, slice them down to nice taco-sized pieces. And once you have everything nice and sliced, you're going to take 2 cups of all-purpose flour. And for this recipe, I use 2 teaspoons of kosher salt and 1 teaspoon of pepper. Usually when you're battering or making and seasoning flour, a general 2-to-1 ratio of salt and pepper work just fine. I'm going to sprinkle that in. Give it a bit of a mix. You don't want little pockets of pepper in here. We've worked hard on this, and the last thing we want is to be choking on our own hard work. So we're going to take our little turkey fillets, give them a light dusting in the flour. Then we're going to throw them in the egg, get them nice and coated. If you have to punch it down with your fingers just to get a nice even coating of egg in there, you'll see that that flour helps the egg stick to the turkey itself. And then you finish up with some of your homemade breadcrumbs. Your end product should look something like that. Again, as you're doing this, you do want to make sure you don't slack on the egg. The egg, in addition to providing a little bit of flavor, is also going to help make sure that your turkey pieces stay fully coated. You will run the risk of some dried turkey that's been fried sort of naked in the oil, which a little bit wouldn't be the end of the world, but we're taking the time to do this, and we're wanting to impress our friends and family or our loved ones, and we want to make sure it's done the right way. So we're going to get a nice, good coating of egg in these homemade sourdough breadcrumbs. And once we've got these all ready, we are going to turn to our skillet, which is going to do the rest of the work for us. All right, guys, we moved on to our frying process, and it should go without saying at this phase in the recipe, you are working with hot oil, so exercise caution. The skillet we've chosen to use is a high-wall stainless steel Teflon skillet. Now, you can use a cast iron here. You can use a copper bottom. Whatever you have at home will likely work well, but I do highly recommend that because you are working with hot oil and cold ingredients, there will be some bubbles. So you want to make sure you protect yourself and your other kitchen equipment. The higher the wall, the better. Now, we're using a conventional gas range oven, and we've been heating about 3 cups of vegetable oil. You could also use olive oil, grapeseed oil, avocado oil, whatever you like, as long as it advertises itself as a good high heat cooking oil. But for simplicity for this recipe, we've gone with vegetable. We've got about a 1/2 inch, maybe a little bit more, just so our 1/4 inch pieces of breaded turkey can be fully submerged, and you can get a nice, quick deep fry that'll get it cooked in the middle. Turkey will be done all the way through, and you'll get a nice golden brown, crispy exterior. Now, this oil has been heating over medium-low heat for about 10 minutes. On our stove, the dial is set to about a good 3.5 out of 10. So once you have your good 350, nice and hot, you're going to take your breaded turkey bits here, and you're just going to carefully drop them in the pan. And you'll hear that nice sizzle. Oh, yeah. That's what we want. Not an aggressive sizzle. Nice sizzle. The bubbles should start forming immediately. Yes. Exactly what we want. And again, it's crucial at this point, too, that you do have enough oil in the pan to cover your turkey. So for this recipe, we went a 1/4 inch thick, maybe added an 1/8 of an inch or so with our breading. So we're still less than a 1/2 inch for our raw product. So went safe, did a 1/2 inch, maybe just a hair over of oil, and you heat it to your nice 350 degrees. These pieces of turkey should be cooked here in the next 90 seconds or so. So at this phase in the recipe, you want to resist the urge to flip or fiddle with it. Your turkey bits are fully submerged. You will notice, even with the shallow amount of oil that we do have in the pan, you will start to notice that they will float. And that's when you know you're perfect or just about done. They will continue to cook. The residual heat from the hot oil as you pull it out and set it on your nice prepared drainage plate here. You will have the temptation to flip them and fiddle with them when they're in the oil. And at this point, I would highly recommend that you let the skillet do the work for you. We've been nice and patient, and we've got our nice golden brown turkey pieces. And as you can see, they're starting to float. You're going to want to color about like that. Nice and golden on either side. Not too light, not too dark. This is why we sliced our turkey so thin to begin with, because we knew we had other elements surrounding the hot brown turkey bits that were going to take a little bit of time to cook. The egg, the breadcrumbs, the seasoned flour. So we don't want to lose faith in ourselves here. So you're looking for a nice golden brown turkey piece like that. You should hear it singing to you just ever so slightly once you pull it out. That's when you know you've done well. It won't sizzle if the turkey's not cooked all the way through. So we're going to take that. We're going to kill the heat on our oil. As always, safety first. And we're going to let our turkey pieces over here cool for a minute while we're getting the rest of our sauces and good stuff together. All right, guys. Now that we've got our sourdough breaded turkey tenders nice and crispy, cooling down, we're going to make arguably the most important part of any hot brown dish, not just the tacos that we're making for you this evening. It's the Mornay Sauce, which a little bit of culinary know-how for you, free of charge. The base of which is called a bechamel, which is a simple sauce made of melted butter, flour, which you cook together, and heated milk. For the sake of this recipe, we're doing 4 tablespoons butter, 4 tablespoons flour, and 3 cups of milk. Now keep in mind when you're measuring this together, as the sauce cooks and all the ingredients are combined, your liquid element, which in this case will be the milk, will lose a little bit of volume due to evaporation. So we have bechamel sauce that we'll make, which is actually one of the 5 mother sauces, which has been important element of classical French cuisine for the last 120 years or so. The other 4 we may cover in another video. But for now, we're going to take our 4 tablespoons of butter. We're going to add them to this nice pot. Both of these pots, one of which is going to have our melted butter and our flour, and the other will be gently heating our milk. You're going to go about the same heat level you did to heat your oil for your turkey tenders, which is good to know because every burner, every pot that you use for this recipe, same temperature all the way through. Slow and low wins the race. General rule of thumb to remember while you're cooking. So we're going to take our nice softened butter here. We're going to give that a second or two to melt. I'm going to grab myself a handy dandy whisk over here out of our pot. While that butter's melted, we'll take our 3 cups of milk. Yes, indeed. You want a slight sizzle when you add that milk. That way you know the pan is hot enough. As long as you don't have any smoke rising from the pan, you'll know that you haven't scalded it. Therefore, the flavor won't be affected. Now, I know a lot of home cooks will find ways to cut a corner here and there or to take time away from their recipe for the sake of efficiency or speed. And I cannot overstate this enough. This is a step that you do not want to skip. Whether you're making a bechamel sauce for this recipe or you decide to make one for mac and cheese later on down the line or for an Alfredo sauce, you have to heat the milk. Don't do it in the microwave. Do it on the stovetop, slow and low. The reason that you want to heat the milk is because when you add the warm milk to the heated butter, it will bind a lot more quickly. If you add cold milk to a hot roux, it'll separate. and you will have a really lumpy, sort of almost curdled consistency to your sauce. And when you're already talking about adding shredded and grated cheese to it, lumps are not what you want. So we're going to take a little bit of time and let our 3 cups of milk here gradually heat up. Our butter is nice and melty in our pan. So we're going to take equal parts, 4 tablespoons butter, 4 tablespoons flour. And we're just going to dump that flour in there. You're going to hear that nice sizzle begin. And you're going to want to gently whisk the butter and flour together. You don't want to be aggressive like when we were whipping our eggs for the batter that we did our turkey tenders with. You'll see some lumps. Don't worry though. You'll be able to break them apart with your whisk. That's what the heat is there to help you for. And once you have your butter and flour all mixed together to our nice little roux paste in there, you're going to give it about 3 or 4 minutes over the medium-low heat until you start to get the smell almost like burnt popcorn. Because you will smell the flour almost immediately when you put it in with the butter. And your goal here is to let the fats inside of the butter help cook the flour. That's where you're going to get a lot of flavor in your Mornay sauce. So you're just going to let this sit here and bubble up so it's a nice smooth paste. And then once you start to smell that burnt popcorn smell, that's when you know you're ready to kill the heat and add your milk. You can see clearly here that we have our roux that is still a nice sort of darkish blonde in color. You do not want to let it get any darker than that. I know you can't smell it at home right now, but we are getting our nice smell of burnt popcorn. So what we're going to do is take our nice heated milk and we're going to add it in gradually to our roux. And at this point in time, you do want to be mindful that it's going to thicken fairly quickly. That's why you don't add all the milk at one time. As you can see, as I'm whisking it, it gets thicker by the second. So once you've stirred and you've got a constant consistency, you're going to add a little more milk. I would say maybe in thirds. For the sake of this recipe, you're going to want to add your milk to your roux in thirds. And you're just going to continue to whisk. Make sure you get a good bit of elbow grease in there every 12 whisks or so, because you want to scrape all that good roux off the sides. And again, you're not going too aggressive with it. You're not trying to whip any air into it, but you do want to give it a steady motion of whisking as such. You just want to make sure that any clumps that you may see or feel as you're whisking it will break down. Oh yeah, we're getting there. We're almost perfect, babe. You're going to add your last third of milk. Set that pan to the side. And we're going to whisk that until we've got a nice smooth consistency. Again, this is where the slow and low method will be your best friend when you're cooking, especially with the classical French cuisine elements such as this. So now we've got ourselves a nice velvety smooth bechamel base. One thing you're looking for before you add your cheese, you want to be able to take a spoon and just kind of gently run it through. Pull it out that sauce is structurally sound enough to coat the back of the spoon and stay, you know you're golden. And we're ready to add our cheese. All right, my friends, we've reached that magical point in the evening where we're ready to do everybody's favorite part of a Mornay, and that is add the cheese. The thing that's going to give you that nice, characteristic, gooey bite of a hot brown that we all know and love. Now, as we stated earlier, we're going to use about 2 ounces of grated Parmesan cheese, 2 ounces grated Gruyere cheese. Just so you know, 2 ounces is about the equivalent of a quarter cup. I do consider myself to be a man of the people, so these are heaping quarter cups. At this point in the game, you've made enough of your bechamel base. A little extra shred or 2 of cheese here and there, it's not going to hurt anything. It's all going to the same place. It's all going to make everybody happy. So we're going to start with our Gruyere. Get every last piece. Waste not, want not, right? Give that a little whisk. Then we're going to follow the Gruyere with his friend, Mr. Parmesan, which is going to give a nice complementary bite to those sourdough breadcrumbs. It's going to complement the savory saltiness of the bacon and turkey as well. You'll get some nice acidity with the tomatoes. Oh, yeah. And all the while that we've been doing this, since we've added our ingredients, remember, slow and low wins the race. You want to resist the urge to increase the heat levels, because that's going to either scald your milk or your butter or do an aggressive number on your cheese. It's going to affect the flavor. I cannot stress to you enough how much you do not want to go above a medium-low heat as you're making any of this. And it's at this point in the game where if you are making this bechamel-based sauce, obviously for the sake of what we're doing, we added Parmesan and Gruyere, which are traditional Mornay-based cheeses. But if you wanted to make an Alfredo sauce, you might add Parmesan and a nice Romano. Or if you were making a baked macaroni and cheese, you would want to go for a nice mild cheddar. The possibilities are limitless, honestly. With the bechamel, you can add just about any other melty, savory cheese to it, and you can't go wrong. But for what we're doing this evening, I do believe at this point we have achieved cheesy, gooey perfection. Oh, yeah. We're ready to rock. Thank you for going on this lovely hot brown taco journey with me this evening. We've reached the final stretch of our demonstration this evening. As you see, we have all of our prepared ingredients throughout the evening. I will say, before you plate, your Mornay sauce lends itself well to any flavor. As I said earlier, it doesn't have to be this recipe. If you want to make a mac and cheese or an Alfredo sauce, as long as you have your heated milk, melted butter, and flour base, the possibilities are limitless. And for this recipe, as with everything else, it lends itself well to any kind of flavor. So while I'm going with the traditional roux, heated milk, and cheese, you could add a bit of a kick to it. Say you want some black pepper, a little paprika, or some cayenne, or if you wanted to go a little bit more savory and throw some garlic powder or onion powder in there. It's totally up to you. It's your dish for your friends and family. You know them better. You know their taste buds better than I will. But for me, al natural is the way to go. Now, as we know, we have our sourdough breaded turkey tenders, our crispy bacon, our freshly made Mornay sauce, nice Campari tomatoes, and garden fresh chives. and a nice, humble flour tortilla to hold it all together. Just take our turkey tenders here. Gently lay them in. About the length of the taco, you want to leave about a half an inch or so on either side, just so ingredients aren't spilling out. Although I don't think anybody would be mad at you at this point. This dish is quite nice. You take your 2 strips of crispy bacon. Take a nice, you don't want the tomato to be overpowering. You just want a nice bit of tomato in there. As with any hot brown, tomato is the final piece that goes on top before it gets put in the oven. So you don't want it to be too overwhelming. You'll notice when I diced the tomatoes earlier, I scraped a lot of the seeds out because you don't want the juiciness to seep through and overpower the Mornay or the turkey or the bacon. You want the tomato to lend itself well as a nice sharp bite towards the end of what it is that you're trying to do here. Give ourselves a little bit of Mornay drizzle. Oh yeah, that's the spot. Velvety smooth. Just how we wanted it. And at this point in time, you can see that I'm using a spoon that is about the equivalent of a tablespoon and a half, but I don't know. Go crazy with it. You can even serve this with a little Mornay sauce to dip on the side, if that should be your prerogative. Nice little touch at the end, just for a nice little extra oniony taste and a splash of color to impress your friends and family. Go for some garden fresh chives. There you have it. Oh my.
Thank you for watching, and we hope you enjoyed Taco Tuesday Kentucky style. And be sure to stay tuned all week for more fun and insightful videos during KSBCF's Virtual Getaway Week. Thank you and take care.